GM. So we saw a nice big liquidation candle of everyone who was betting on Bitcoin for that Monday reversal, getting themselves wiped out on Tuesday. We might go one push lower to create a liquidation divergence. If we did, that would be a clear sign of a potential rally. I'm only interested in longs here on the lower time frames. I think the edge in going short is, it's not diminishing, but it is diminishing. I mean, I still think down is very likely as the way it's moving, because it is currently in a downtrend, as you can see quite clearly here. Price is going lower and lower and lower, but it's got weakening momentum. As each time it tries to push lower, support is being found. That 65k area is holding strong so far. We've only seen one wick down below into the 64s. And I showed this a while back, or not a while back, I think it was just yesterday. But if I go to my aggregate chart for BTC, over here, and zoom out and take that off and put on visible range volume profile. Here we go. So for the Bitcoin move up on the VRVP, you can see here that we're stuck below the vast majority. This high volume node, I'll put this out so you can see more. This high volume node here with the point of control is where Bitcoin is really struggling at. And that brings us right at 66. And below that, there's a little gap of volume right down to 64. 64 is where the next strong support should be. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some ping pong between 66 and 64, as price has a tendency to come back to these areas and fill them in. It comes back and trades here. It can't get below 64. It can't get above 66. And it ends up distributing some volume in here before either reclaiming or breaking lower. I think a lower break is, this is where you're looking at the whole value area that goes right down towards 60. And when you're looking at it from a volume perspective, if 64 doesn't hold, there's very little to stop us before 62. 62 gets lost with 60. Below that, that's when you can see an actual gap open up all the way down to, 50, which I don't think will happen. I think Bitcoin is just summer consolidation. Unless there's a major bearish catalyst, which I don't see, then we're going to be fine. But that would lead me towards 64 to 66 ping-ponging. And when I zoom back in, and we then look at the volume profile over here, so that, there we are. Take that off now, because I don't need it. And we're looking at price fluctuating in this area. So I don't need any of those ones. I don't need the bands right now. We've got clear levels above. So weekly open, that separates Bitcoin from having a red week and a green week. As you can see, dipped down on Monday, could not reclaim it Monday evening, rejected off it, clear level. Monthly open, same thing, but on the monthly, and then 2021 all-time high. I think with 66 and 64, if we're going to be staying in that zone, that leads you into some kind of, I've got a channel here. Is it the channel? Yeah. Bitcoin's in a downtrend channel that keeps chopping. And so the next time for it to actually be bullish is if it does manage to hold here and starts to trade sideways and out of that. That's when you're starting to look at a real shift where it's not in that downtrend anymore. The downtrend has slowed and then is then stopped. And I actually quite like this type of setup here, where it dips down a bit, it moves up, can't flip the weekly open, falls back, and it keeps chopping in this area, and people keep getting bearish because each rally fails. But it doesn't dump lower, and it just drifts sideways for long enough that a bottom's actually forming, and then it can have a rally up towards the 69k area. In terms of a collapse, it's not going to happen from here, in my opinion, because we already had that opportunity. Pushed up last night, took out the highs, fell back, tried to break lower, couldn't. Came back inside. If it is going to go lower, you're going to see a really, really choppy and bleeding type of price action, where it pushes down and it just sort of grinds and then has these pops up and grinds and chops down. And that's not really going to be great for trading. There's not going to be much good trading opportunities there, because I think at each step along the way there's going to be support coming in. And I don't see shorts as being the plus EV bet here, because the market has fully flipped itself back to bearish in terms of sentiment and positioning. Spot premiums back, funding rates below neutral, open interest flat, liquidations picking up. And as you look across the market, obviously everything is just neutral or negative. Some of these are flipping towards negative. Matic's got negative funding, Toncoin's negative funding, Solana's negative funding, right? There's negative funding rates across the market. Big caps, small caps. Nothing has got any fucking positive funding. Literally zero. So that's a sign when the whole market is neutral or negative on funding, and spot premiums are back and open interest is wiped and is continuing to bleed. That's a sign that you don't want to be shorting this market. It's also, don't make that mistake though, it's also not a sign that it's just get long, fucking massive squeezes are coming. It doesn't tend to move like that. It could be weeks before we see any real strength again. But it doesn't, it just means that anytime it tries to push lower, it's going to keep bouncing. And so if you are trading on the short side, keep your targets close, keep your trades relatively short term. And I want to look at open interest across the market now, because Bitcoin OI is holding up well, which I like to see. The longer that continues, and then I'm going to exclude Ethereum, I just want to see alts themselves. Alts have now round tripped their open interest all the way back to these levels. Perfect. So everyone who bet on the great altcoin fucking season, wrecked. Bitcoin hasn't. Bitcoin's open interest is held up. But that's because Bitcoin actually has far more genuine interest from both TradFi and crypto people. And I don't think that this, the opportunities for this, what I wanted to say was, a few days back I was saying, okay, Bitcoin's OI is still pretty elevated here, even as price breaks structure. That's a bad sign. But open interest is held up, even as we went lower and lower. So there's been 2 attempts for bigger breaks on BTC that have both failed. It doesn't mean we can't have one. Remember, as long as it's in that channel formation, it can still easily do that. And there might be a last capitulation to come. So which is why I wouldn't be rushing into positions here. But I'm certainly looking for longs. If I'm looking for anything, I'm looking for longs. And it's wiped off my fucking thing. Velo data's shit for that. And for me, I think it's a simple setup. If this level holds, I think it'll move towards those highs. And it'll either take those highs or it'll fail in this area. So I'll be looking at a rejection there or flip there. But the long trade would just be the bit in between. And, it'd be this part here if you're looking at BTC. But I want to see where I've got this alert set. I want to see it retest 65 again, ideally, or break from this consolidation. So if I can get a lower time frame structure here and show you the 2 setups. If you zoom right in and we look at this, let's just put a volume profile from the bottom to here. So here's everything that we've had in terms of volume profile since the lows. There's your value area. So BTC could flush down to this area and form a higher low. And if it did that, I'll be looking at trading it back up into the highs and a breakout from that. That would be bullish. That would be like the perfect, just what I mentioned, that would be the perfect retest. So if it does that, that's bullish. Alternatively, where could it get bullish even sooner? It would be here. In this consolidation since it moved up. So we're just in this little box we have here. If Bitcoin's able to break from that, which it isn't yet, so I would not get long here because it's just chopping. It can continue chopping for fucking forever and it can drift lower. If it does though, flip that level, start to trade outside it, that's when I think it's going to go towards the breakdown point and the highs. That's if you're not going to get, if all this is going to get left, that's how I expect it to look. I would wait to see it flip and hold and then trade it on the upside. So first option, move down, retest, holds, get long. Second option, goes up, get long. Definitely wouldn't be getting long here. Not right now. But I think the bottom's in. I do think this low holds. There is a chance that that low gets swept again, but since we had the Monday low getting swept, I think that low holds. I saw a lot of liquidations come in last night or overnight. I saw a lot of pain and blood. That's usually a bottom. And when I say a bottom, it only has to be a bottom for a few days. It doesn't like, it's not like you're saying high time frame fucking, bull market kickstarts again from here. But if you look at those liquidations overnight, BTC and then alts, but if we actually zoom it in to the 4 hour, really big liquidations for such a small candle, right? The liquidations were almost equivalent to the proper sell-off from the 72k down to 68. And then just in that little candle, a lot of liquidations, especially on alts. That's a capitulation sign to me. So I think longs are the best play, but you need to have your setups. So for me, I'll focus on BTC if I get that set up. And that's it. GM, GM, GM.
you.